roundup of the news from around the globe. I'm Hafiz Abdul Sattar, your host for the evening. Over 35 Indian companies are showcasing their innovations at the prestigious Steel Fab Expo 2025 in Sharjah, city of United Arab Emirates, marking India's largest participation at the event to date.
The Steel Fab Expo 2025 opened on Monday at the Expo Center Sharjah, featuring an impressive lineup of over 600 global brands and 350 exhibitors from 33 countries. Among these, India's participation stands out with more than 35 companies presenting their latest advancements under the Confederation of Indian Industry India Pavilion. Running until January 16th, the expo highlights India's growing presence in the West Asian market. Once dominated by South Korean and European suppliers, this region is now recognizing India's competitiveness in industrial solutions. Indian participation at the expo highlights the country's growing prominence in the global metalworking and fabrication sector, while strengthening industrial ties with the UAE and the broader Middle East.
Customs data shows that China's export growth picked up steam in December while imports recovered, closing out the year on a positive note as the world's second largest economy braces for mounting trade risk with the incoming U.S. administration.
Imports surprised to the upside with 1% growth, the strongest performance since July 2024. Economists had expected a 1.5% decline. The government is targeting economic growth of around 5% for the year, a goal that have proved challenging to achieve at times in 2024. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, set to return to the White House next week, has proposed hefty tariffs on Chinese goods, sparking fears of a renewed trade war between the two superpowers. Adding to the challenges, unresolved disputes with the European Union over tariffs of up to 45.3% on Chinese electric vehicles threaten to hinder China's ambitions to expand its auto exports.
Sixteen Dragon boat teams from across China converged on an icy surface in Jinzhou City, northeast China's Liaoning province on Monday, showcasing speed and passion in a new sport known as Ice Dragon boat racing.
While dragon boat racing is a Chinese tradition that dates back centuries, putting the boats on ice is a modern innovation in the sporting world. Nonetheless, races retain the core elements of tradition, including the dragon heads and tails on the boat, as well as the beating of the drums that keep racing teams synchronized. The bottom of the boats are fitted with ice blades to let the craft glide across the ice. In place of paddles, the racers propel the boat with poles equipped with sharp ends that pierce and grip the ice. Though the sport is quite young, these poles are already being made with safety in mind. With the ice surface gleaming like a mirror, the dragon boats glide swiftly, allowing participants to experience the thrill of lightning speed, especially during the final sprint. Locals in Jinzhou have also developed newer variations of ice dragon boating, such as ice dragon boat drifting and ice dragon boat tug of war.
Nestled in a corner of central Tokyo, the Instinct Media Museum is exactly what its title evokes. From Betacams to floppy disk and vintage Sony devices, the museum's displays are mostly devoted to old cameras and telecom equipment, with the oldest being the Japanese-produced Lily film camera manufactured in 1916.
The museum's cluttered shelves gives visitors like 59-year-old Mika Matsuda a glimpse of the past, with many of these gadgets when they were part of everyday lives. Deputy Museum Curator Barbara Asuka said the museum, which officially opened to the public in January 2023, was founded on the principle that eventually all media gadgets except for paper and stone, a direct reference to stone-carved cuneiform, will die out and become defunct. The items on display, which are mostly donated, are to share the fun with everyone. All artifacts on display can be touched and held by museum goers. Asuka said that the touch and feel approach encourages visitors to experience those gadgets using all 5 of the human senses. The museum regularly accepts donations from museum goers like Hisashi Ito, who brought in a small handheld watch and cassette tapes from his personal collection on Saturday. The 56-year-old automobile designer said he would rather share these old items with people than just discarding them. The Extant Media's museum's opening hours vary, with general admission priced at around 2,000 yen, about $12.7. Tickets for donors and students are 1,000 yen, about $6.34.
President Prabowo says the Japanese government is committed to strengthening bilateral relations with Indonesia by supporting a nutritious meal program for children in Indonesia. He also states that Indonesia and Japan have agreed to enhance their strategic partnership in various fields.
In his statement after a bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan, Ishiba Shigeru, at the Presidential Palace in Bogor on Saturday, President Prabowo Subianto said that Japan has a long experience in providing nutritious food for school children. In response, Prime Minister Ishiba expressed his readiness to offer a cooperation program which includes training and providing school meals. In addition, Japan agrees to initiate another program by dispatching experts as well as developing fisheries and agriculture sectors in Indonesia. Meanwhile, President Prabowo said one of the main focuses of the meeting was to enhance cooperation in the economic and energy fields. Prime Minister Ishiba expressed his readiness to support Indonesia in ensuring a stable energy supply, including through the development of renewable energy projects such as geothermal power plants, hydrogen, and ammonia. Japan will also support industrialization program in Indonesia, especially in natural resources downstreaming. President Prabowo invited Japan to participate in a program aimed at increasing the added value of Indonesian products before they are exported.
A fierce red dragon, a sacred feline deity, and a stranded dog and cat has taken over the rice paddies in northern Thailand, a living artistic tribute to flooding that inundated nearby areas in September, stranding thousands.
Spreading across more than 2 hectares of 5 acres, these mystical creatures are the creation of Thanyapong Jaiham, a full-time factory worker and part-time farmer who is transforming rice paddies into artistic landscapes as his personal project. His artwork was inspired by the severe flooding in Chiang Rai and northern Thailand that stranded thousands in September 2024. He chose the dragon to mark the end of the Lunar New Year. At the bottom of the rice field, he depicted dogs and cats trapped in floodwaters waiting for help. Starting last October, Thanyapong and his team began the meticulous process of creating the artwork by using artificial intelligence to plot and refine the design outlines. They then employed GPS to mark precise coordinates on the ground, sketching and placing scaled wooden stakes connected with ropes to ensure accuracy. Using around 20 kilograms of rainbow rice seeds, the team carefully planted various rice varieties, transforming the vision into a vibrant masterpiece. As the vibrant artwork took shape, it began drawing attention far beyond the fields. Since its launch in December, Thanyapong said thousands of visitors, students, families, and locals have explored the field, offering inspiration to curious wanderers or even evoking reflections on the recent flooding. Thanyapong's farm, inspired by Japan's tembo or rice paddy art, will remain open until February, when the rice in the dragon field will be harvested, followed by the other fields afterwards. For Thanyapong, blending art with science is more than just creativity. It's a way to revive farming and inspire hope in his hometown.
South Korean authorities arrest impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol over insurrection allegations, with the embattled leader saying he agreed to comply with what he called an illegal probe to avoid bloodshed. His arrest, the first ever for an incumbent South Korean president, is the latest head-spinning development for one of Asia's most vibrant democracies, even though the country has a history of prosecuting and imprisoning former leaders.
Since lawmakers voted to stand him down after his short-lived declaration of martial law on December 3rd, Yoon has been holed up at his hillside residence, guarded by a small army of personal security that blocked a previous arrest attempt. A defiant Yoon said he submitted himself for questioning to avoid any violence after more than 3,000 police officers marched on his residence to arrest him from the early hours of Wednesday. Yoon's motorcade was later seen leaving his residence in an upscale area known as Seoul's Beverly Hills. It arrived at the investigator's office but was quickly surrounded by security and moved to the back of the building, where Yoon slipped in, evading the waiting media. Authorities now have 48 hours to question Yoon, after which they must seek a warrant to detain him for up to 20 days or release him. Yoon's lawyers have said that the arrest warrant is illegal because it was issued by a court in the wrong jurisdiction, and the team set up to investigate him had no legal mandate to do so. Yoon's declaration of martial law shocked South Koreans, rattled Asia's fourth-largest economy, and ushered in an unprecedented period of political turmoil in one of Washington's key security partners in the region. Lawyers voted to impeach him and remove him from duties shortly after on December 14th. Separate to the criminal investigation, the Constitutional Court is deliberating whether to uphold his impeachment by Parliament and permanently remove him from office or restore his presidential powers.
Australian scientists have newly classified a bigger species of the Sydney funnel web spider, one of the world's deadliest, saying the new species could inject more venom in research released on Monday.
The new funnel web species has earned the nickname of Big Boy and was first discovered in the early 2000s near Newcastle, 170 kilometers, about 105 miles north of Sydney, by Ken Christensen, a spider enthusiast and former head of spiders at the Australian Reptile Park.
The funnel web antivenom will work across the board. The one that the Australian Reptile Park makes from the Sydney funnel web works across all species of funnel web, so there's nothing to worry about there. This particular spider is a lot larger, its venom glands are a lot larger, and its fangs are a lot longer, so there is the possibility for possibly a deeper penetration through gloves possibly, and also the venom glands are larger, so there's a chance there might be more venom injected.
Scientists from the Australian Museum, Flinders University and Germany's Leibniz Institute said that Big Boy would be classified as a separate species of funnel web spiders. Scientists have named the 9 centimeters, around 3.54 inches long species as Atrax christenseni after Christensen's contributions to the research. The more common Sydney funnel webs can grow up to 5 centimeters. The nocturnal black arachnids are usually spotted within around 150 kilometers, about 93 miles of Sydney, Australia's largest city, and is mostly active between November and April. Only the male Sydney funnel web is responsible for human deaths. According to the Australian Museum, a total of 13 deaths have been recorded, though no human fatalities have occurred since the development of antivenom in the 1980s.
Global coffee prices continue to rise due to supply issues. A coffee roaster from NSW has been looking at Australian suppliers and believes there is a potential for local coffee to cushion to market in the future. The Australian coffee industry is expanding, but insiders say it will be years before production is significantly increased.
If you're anything like me, you simply can't start your day without a caffeine hit. But you might have noticed the price of that shot of coffee is getting more expensive. That price hike is being driven by bad weather in Brazil and Vietnam, where most of the world's coffee comes from. Roasters, like the one I'm in, largely import their beans from overseas. In fact, less than half of 1% of the coffee Australians drink is grown here in Australia. So, with that global price so high, some roasters and cafes are now looking for other options.
People in particular industry were saying, well, why don't we have something available locally, domestically, and a product that we can offer.
But growers are telling me they can barely keep up with demand as is, let alone expand. That's partly because coffee requires really specific growing conditions to thrive. In Australia, it only grows in northern New South Wales and parts of Queensland, and that land is becoming increasingly expensive. Labour also pushes production costs up, so even with the global price of coffee so high, it's still more expensive to buy beans here in Australia than it is to import them from overseas. So what can be done to expand the Australian industry? Well, some growers are putting in more plants. Sherelle, who owns this roastery, is putting in her own trees to see how coffee grows here on the New South Wales mid-north coast. But as with any crop, it'll be a few years yet before there are any actual beans. So, whether you're buying it from a cafe or direct from the roaster, it could still be some time before you're drinking coffee that was grown here in Australia.
Loneliness is a problem all over Australia, with research showing it can negatively impact a person's mental and physical well-being. In Melbourne's outer suburbs, residents are fighting back to keep their communities feeling connected.
Hello everyone. Hello.
On the face of it, it's an unassuming coffee catch-up in Melbourne's outer north. But this open invite women's social group is the creation of one dedicated volunteer.
It's just amazing. It's just so, I don't even want to get paid for doing it. It's just so nice.
Gay came across many lonely people in her former life working in aged care.
You go there and visit once a week usually, and they just can't get over it. When you go there, they're just so excited. Some start crying because they haven't seen anyone for a week. It's just so, it makes you cry. It's so sad.
She started her weekly coffee club in an attempt to help women like her stay connected.
I was lonely, I'd lost my husband, and I just needed someone to go out with.
It's the best thing, and they are so friendly. We have laughs, we have jokes.
Gay's not the only one concerned about growing social isolation. Craigieburns Deputy Mayor says it often came up on the hustings during the recent local election.
I door knocked something like 6,000 homes, and it was really surprising how many people were coming to us, inviting us into our homes for a coffee, telling us stories about how they lost a partner, how their children weren't seeing them.
At this community centre in Mickleham, another volunteer is doing her best to keep migrants connected. She knows how hard it can be. When Gurdeep first came to Australia, she experienced it too.
I was not sure how to make friends here.
Let others to feel respected.
She hopes the monthly meetings are creating a network where attendees can ask for help and ending the meeting on a high note to help foster the culture of connection. Costa Haritos, ABC News.
Scientists in Antarctica are using underwater drones to film sea life beneath the ice. It's a part of a multi-year research project near the Denman Glacier, hundreds of kilometres from Australia's nearest stations.
At a deep field campsite at Bunga Hills, a helicopter ferries scientists to a frozen coastline where they drill into sea ice up to 2 metres thick.
Prior to our expedition, there had never been any marine research in the Bunga Hills. We didn't even know if there was marine life here.
When the underwater drone is sent beneath the ice, it reveals a world never seen before by human eyes.
It's actually a thriving, healthy marine ecosystem. There is so much life down there on the seabed.
The sight of jellyfish, sea sponges, urchins and other creatures all relayed back on a live feed.
When we first put the robot down under the sea ice, it was just so biodiverse and colourful.
Some specimens are...
That thing's massive. It's a really unique laboratory, if you like, that gives us an insight into biodiversity and life in Antarctica.
Several kilometres away at another camp, teams are researching the Denman Glacier, the fastest melting glacier in East Antarctica.
if this glacier fails, it will actually rise and increase the sea levels by 1.5 metres approximately.
It's the third summer in a row that this site has played host to Australian researchers. The team of more than 30, supported by a remote medical specialist just in case of emergency.
I might be the solo doctor on the ground, but I'm very much part of a broader medical network.
Over the coming days and weeks, everything here will be packed up, removed and remediated before the team's campaign concludes.
We've got a complete program of remediation to essentially to go home with nothing but a photograph.
Conducting critical science while ensuring there's no impact on Antarctica's sensitive ecosystem. Jono Gibson, ABC News.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant day.
Creating a news agenda that reflects an unbiased view of Asian current affairs without relying on external news sources. Asia Vision, Asian news through Asian eyes.
ඒරෙග්ග දුනියග නਜ਼ර ಹುಟ್ಟಿಫಾವಾ ಪೊಡೆತಿ ಮಸಲ್ತ
ಸೇರೋ ವೋತ ಹುಂಕೋಂತ್ರ
ಎ ಮಸಲ್ತಹುಗೆ ಎಮ್ಮೆ ಫಹುಗ ತಫ್ಸೀರ್ ಎಮ್ಮೆ ಫುಣ ದಿರಾಸ ಕುರುವ ಪೊಂಟ್
ದುನಿಯೆಗೆ ಖಳಿ
Your Excellency President Ala Karis, Excellencies, senior government officials of Estonia,